Hydrophones 4,800 kilometers apart recorded the same impossible sound. A sound louder than a nuclear explosion, a sound that should not exist. To understand what they heard, you have to look back. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, the U.S. Navy built a secret web of microphones during the Cold War. Its official name was the Sound Surveillance System, or SOSUS. Its purpose was simple: to hear a Soviet submarine from across an entire ocean. For decades, it listened in total silence, a ghost network guarding the abyss. And then, on a routine afternoon, the system recorded it, a low-frequency rumble that echoed for over a minute. Think about what that means. A single noise, so powerful it overloaded sensors designed to track the loudest machines ever built by humanity. Scientists at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration were baffled. They gave it a simple name: the bloop. Sounds innocent, doesn't it? But the initial analysis pointed to something unsettling. The energy signature of the bloop didn't match any known source. Not a submarine, not an earthquake, not a volcano. The calculations suggested its origin had to be biological. And here's where it gets interesting. To make a sound that powerful, an animal would need to be larger than a blue whale. Much larger. Imagine an organism the size of a commercial airliner moving through the crushing dark, miles below the surface. The official explanation was quickly settled. An ice quake. The sound of a massive iceberg cracking and breaking away from Antarctica. Case closed. The media reported it. The public accepted it. And the bloop became a fun piece of trivia. But here is the part they never talk about. The sound profile of an ice quake is a high-frequency crackle followed by a long, steady hiss. The bloop was the opposite. It was a low-frequency rumble that rose in pitch. It had the distinct acoustic signature of a living creature's vocalization. The data just didn't fit the story they were selling. For 15 years, the ice quake theory was the official truth. Then, in 2012, another sound was detected. This time in the Atlantic. It was almost identical to the bloop, but it came from a place with no icebergs for thousands of kilometers. So if it wasn't ice, and it wasn't a machine, what was it? What was it? Hung in the silence for years. The answer didn't come from a deep-sea submersible. It came from a man sorting through magnetic tapes in an office in Newport, Oregon. His name was Dr. Robert Dziak, a seismologist for NOAA. In 2005, he was given full access to the declassified SOSUS archives, the entire Cold War library of oceanic sounds. And here's where the neat, tidy story of a single bloop completely falls apart. Because Dziak discovered the bloop wasn't a solo performance. It was part of a chorus. On May 19, 1997, just a few months before the bloop, the sensors recorded a sound they called down. A deep vibrating hum that descended in pitch over 7 minutes. Think about that. 7 minutes for a single sound to finish. Then on March 1st, 1999, another appeared. They named it Julia. A mournful, agonizing cry, loud enough to be heard by every single hydrophone across the 4,800 kilometers of the equatorial Pacific Array. The public was told about the bloop. They were never told about the others. Why? Why release one strange sound, but classify the rest? The official story of ice quakes was already wearing thin. An iceberg in the Pacific for the bloop was one thing, but a fleet of them, all making completely different sounds, all across the globe? The math no longer worked. And now for the part that baffled the physicists. Let's talk about power. Sound travels differently in water than in air. It moves faster and much, much further. But even so, there are limits. The blue whale, the largest and loudest animal on Earth, produces a call around 188 decibels. You can hear it from 800 kilometers away. That's impressive. The bloop, however, was detected by sensors nearly 5,000 kilometers apart. To travel that distance and still be that loud, the source would need to generate a sound of at least 270 decibels. Now you need to understand what that number means. The decibel scale is logarithmic. This means 270 is not just a bit louder than the whale's 188, it is millions of times more powerful. It's a level of energy that would literally tear a living creature apart. The pressure wave would instantly boil the water around it and pulverize the flesh and bone of any organism that produced it. It's like trying to build a speaker that vaporizes itself the moment you turn it on. It is a physical impossibility, for a living thing anyway. The official documents from GIAC's 2008 analysis are public, but one detail is buried in the appendix, a footnote, and it describes how the sound signature for the bloop was a near-perfect match for a previously recorded but highly classified sound profile. The document code name was TR-87. The sound source, the catastrophic failure of a submarine's hull during a deep water pressure test. A man-made sound. So the Navy had heard something like this before. They knew what a collapsing metal giant sounded like, miles beneath the waves. But the bloop was many times more powerful than any submarine implosion ever recorded. And no submarine was reported lost in that area in 1997. The records are clear, so the investigators were left with a paradox. The sound had the acoustic fingerprint of a machine's death, but the shifting frequency of a living creature's call. It was a ghost, a mechanical ghost that screamed like an animal. For years, this contradiction held the investigation in a deadlock. They had a sound that couldn't be an animal and couldn't be a machine, a sound that shouldn't exist. But it did, and they had the tapes to prove it. They kept listening, and what they heard next, deep in the Mariana Trench in 2015, would make them question not just what was in the water, but what the water itself was hiding. What if the source wasn't moving through the ocean at all? What if it was coming from beneath it? Change the investigation entirely. What if the source was beneath the ocean floor? For a moment, it seemed possible. The sounds could be undiscovered forms of seismic activity. Pockets of gas escaping the Earth's crust, screaming as they met the crushing pressure of the deep. It was a terrifying yet elegant idea. A planet groaning in its sleep. But the data, as always, refused to cooperate. The acoustic signatures didn't match any known geological event. They were too structured, too intentional. The trail went cold again, leaving only an impossible sound and a dozen dead-end theories. And then, in 2012, 15 years after the bloop first echoed across the Pacific, NOAA announced they had solved it. The man who made the announcement was Dr. Robert Dziak, and the same seismologist who first uncovered the existence of Julia and Down. The official explanation was an ice quake, a specific type of cryoseism generated by a massive iceberg cracking and fracturing as it scrapes against the sea floor. Dziak's team had deployed new hydrophones off Antarctica. They recorded dozens of ice quakes, and their sound profiles were, according to the final report, a clear match for the bloop. A case of mistaken identity, a natural phenomenon, not a monster. The mystery was over. And you probably believe that, don't you? It makes sense. It's clean. But here's the part that never makes it past the headlines. Think about it. The icequake theory provides a perfect explanation for the one sound you were told about. The bloop? It completely ignores the others. Down, the sound that lasted for 7 minutes, has an acoustic structure totally different from an icequake. Julia, the agonizing cry from 1999, was recorded thousands of kilometers from any known icebergs. The official report from 2012 mentions these other sounds only in passing. It dismisses them as separate, unrelated events still under investigation. How convenient. You have a dozen murders, but you find a suspect for one, and you declare the entire case closed. Does that sound like good science to you? Or does it sound like an organization that desperately needed an answer, any answer, to stop the questions? Let's look closer at the evidence they presented. The report states the sounds are similar, but audio analysts outside of the government point out a key difference. An icequake is a sudden fracture. Its sound profile is a chaotic burst of broadband noise that fades quickly. The bloop, however, had a distinct structure. It rose in frequency. This upsweep is a classic signature of a biological vocalization. A whale call, for example, often rises in pitch. A cracking piece of ice does not. So you have a sound with the fingerprint of a living thing, explained away as a geological event. It's like finding a footprint in the mud and declaring it was made by the rain. And here's where it gets truly strange. The declassified documents are available, but you have to read the footnotes. Buried in a 2008 analysis is a reference to Project Mogul, a top-secret U.S. Air Force project from the 1940s that used high-altitude balloons to listen for Soviet nuclear tests. These balloons carried experimental acoustic sensors. In 1947, one of them crashed near Roswell, New Mexico. Yes, that Roswell. The official story for that event was a weather balloon, just like the official story for the bloop became an iceberg. Notice a pattern? A simple, natural explanation is offered to end public speculation about a highly classified listening technology. Is it possible the bloop, Julia, and the others were not the sounds of monsters, but the sounds of something we were never meant to hear? A new type of submarine engine. A secret weapon being tested in the abyss. An icequake becomes the perfect alibi. It's a sound that comes from one of the most remote, inaccessible places on Earth. No one can go there to verify it. You just have to trust them. You have to trust the same military scientific complex that used SOSUS to listen for Soviet submarines for 50 years in total secrecy. The same people who told you nothing was there, until there was. The icequake theory closed the book. A neat, tidy ending. But they forgot one thing. The original SOSUS recordings from 1997 didn't just capture sound. They captured direction. The triangulation data from multiple hydrophones all pointed to a single point of origin. A location at 50 degrees south, 100 degrees west. And according to a century of geological and oceanic records, there has not been a single major iceberg within 500 kilometers of that spot for the last 10,000 years. 50 degrees south, 100 degrees west, a point in the ocean further from land than any other place on Earth. There are no icebergs here. There never have been. The official story, then, doesn't just have a hole in it. The story itself is the whole. And this raises the question nobody ever thinks to ask. Who heard it first? It wasn't a scientist in a lab coat analyzing data years later. It was a 19-year-old sailor sitting in the dark. His name might have been Joe Rice, an actual SOSUS operator stationed at Whidbey Island, or one of hundreds of anonymous young men just like him. Imagine this is your job. You sit in a windowless concrete box for 12 hours a day. You wear headphones, staring at a green line on a screen, listening to nothing. And your only task is to recognize the unique acoustic signature of a Soviet submarine engine, a sound you've memorized from countless recordings. For months, it's just the hiss of static, the mournful groan of a distant whale, the churn of a storm 1,000 kilometers away. You get to know the ocean's normal voice, its rhythms, its sighs, and then one day, the sigh becomes a scream. The bloop wasn't just a blip on a screen for these men, it was a physical event. Former SOSUS operators describe a feeling, a pressure change in the room, a low vibration that came not through the headphones, but through the concrete floor. It was a sound you felt in your bones before you heard with your ears. Think about what that means. A noise generated nearly 5,000 kilometers away was powerful enough to make the teeth hum in their jaw. The protocol was brutally simple. Log it, classify it, and never speak of it to anyone. But they did speak in hushed tones in bars decades later, long after the secrets were supposed to have faded. They talked about the other sounds, the ones that never got cool, public names like the bloop. These were sounds the Navy officially denied even existed. They had their own names for them. The train, a rhythmic chugging that moved faster than any nuclear submarine. The quacker, a bizarre bioduck sound that could ascend and descend thousands of feet in seconds. These weren't isolated incidents. They were the background noise of a secret world. The operators were told these were biological, just animals, nothing to worry about. But here's the part that makes no sense. Why was the sound of an animal a classified military secret? Why was a sailor's logbook containing a note about a weird fish noise immediately locked in a secure vault? For 50 years, these men sat in silence, listening to an ocean they were told was empty and lifeless, save for enemy machines. They were the planet's secret keepers, hearing whispers from a world no one else could reach. They believed their job was to be the ears of the Navy, an invisible, passive observer. But here is the question that kept some of them awake long after their service ended. The question that should keep you awake tonight. They spent half a century listening to the abyss. What if, all that time, the abyss was listening back? Everything. Because if the abyss was listening, what has it been hearing? For over a century, we filled its world with noise. The brutal churn of propellers, the high-frequency shriek of sonar tearing through the water at 235 decibels, the constant grinding drone of our industrial world. We made the oceans a place where it was impossible to hear. And then, in the spring of 2020, the noise stopped. As the world locked down, global shipping traffic fell by over 60%. For the first time in 100 years, the machines fell silent. And in that silence, the ocean began to speak again. Scientists like Dr. Michel Fournet, a marine acoustician at Cornell, recorded something extraordinary. Humpback whales off the coast of Alaska began using complex vocalizations, songs of nuance and intimacy that hadn't been documented since the 1950s. Before the supertankers, before the noise. Think about what that means. We stopped talking for just a few weeks, and an ancient conversation resumed. This forces you to see the original mystery in a new light. We have spent decades hunting for the source of the bloop. We imagined a monster. We investigated a secret weapon. We blamed a collapsing iceberg. We were looking for a single voice that screamed. But maybe we were asking the wrong question all along. What if the bloop wasn't an intruder? What if it was simply a word spoken in a language we've forgotten how to hear, finally breaking through our own self-imposed deafness? We searched for a thing, an entity. But what if the source isn't a creature moving through the ocean? What if the ocean is the creature, a single planetary scale organism, and these sounds are the beat of its heart? The official story is that the case is closed. An icequake, a neat, tidy explanation to file away, but they never mention what happened when our noise pollution faded. They don't talk about the songs that returned. The real silence wasn't the empty abyss we imagined. The real silence was the one we created by drowning out every voice but our own. We sailed into the farthest corners of the sea, armed with our most sensitive microphones, desperate to hear a secret.